top focus of the bulletin, INS Vikrant. Yes, I am talking about India's first indigenously built aircraft carrier. All eyes, of course, today are on INS Vikrant because it's going to be commissioned today by none other than Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Cochin shipyard. The 45,000-ton warship, the largest ever to be built in the country, has completed a year of sea trials. The cost of building the warship was 20,000 crores. Besides, the Prime Minister will also unveil the new naval ensign today. That naval ensign is also very important because it is delinking the Navy with any sort of colonial past. We'll discuss that as well. But coming back to INS Vikrant, with the pennant number R11 was the first ever aircraft carrier that was operated by the Indian Navy. It's back in its new avatar. Of course, it's been refurbished by the Navy, and of course the salient features of INS Vikrant, why the Navy needs it, how it will help us counter China threat and more. I'll discuss all of this with a panel of experts, starting with Ambassador Suresh Goyal. He's a former diplomat. Commodore Anil Jay Singh, retired. He's a Vice President of the Indian Maritime Foundation. Sanjeev Srivastava, foreign policy expert. Praful Bakshi, Commander Praful Bakshi, Wing Commander Praful Bakshi, also with us. I welcome you all, gentlemen, and thank you first of all for joining us on NewsX this fine morning. I'm going to start first of all with you, Wing Commander Bakshi. It's a proud day for India. There is no denying that. It's a mega push for Atmanirbhar Bharat. The first indigenously built aircraft carrier will be commissioned today. It will be inducted today. Something, of course, which the whole country had been eagerly waiting for. Help us understand really, sir, what it means for Atmanirbharta or self-reliance in defense for India, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Very nice to be with you on this very happy occasion where India is launching its aircraft carrier. And as we all know, that Atmanirbhar Bharat means a lot for India. It means we are heading for indigenization processes, which will now make us we'll depend upon ourselves and not outsiders. Let me tell you one thing, in the matter of defense, when you depend on outsiders, your foreign policy becomes weak. You start going to other people's wishes. This is the problem. And this is now, you will see why India's steps will become bolder and bolder. And let me tell you, Navy is leading service as far as indigenization process is concerned. Commodore Jay Singh will bear me out that this aspect Navy leads. Navy has been indigenizing a lot of their equipment. In fact, whether in the field of submarine, whether in the field of shipyard, building. In fact, we have been watching the process of Vikrant being built in Cochin. I've been going there and I've been watching, and this augurs very well. This means that now China is really worried. China will know that we have not only built a capability, we will soon be now going for advanced aircraft carriers also. Even 65,000-ton aircraft carrier is on the board. Probably it will start, and in a few years we'll have that aircraft carrier also. It means we will be able to project ourselves, the Indian policy, not only a coastal navy or IO, it will be now a pure blue water navy. It will become, if we get 3 aircraft carriers on each side and 1 standby, that is where the whole thing will start upsetting everybody. And that's what we are heading for. Aircraft carrier means when you project, your navy projects the interest of India, protects the interest of India, and the aircraft carrier is a floating airfield which carries the aircraft closer to the enemy, so the aircraft range is increased.
Correct.
A lot of people will tell you that aircraft carrier is a very costly thing, it gets destroyed, etc. Don't listen to them. This is the main thing which has won all the countries in the Second World War. Those who had strong navy had always been leading. Those who did not have strong navy aircraft carrier, was not there. Germany, Russia, everybody went down because they did not have aircraft carrier. That is what it is.
Right. And sir, you've touched upon some very, very important points. Some of them, of course, being far as self-reliance is concerned, other the China threat, and of course, very importantly, which is also a subject of a major debate right now, the cost of building these aircraft carriers and if India needs a third aircraft carrier. I'll take it forward, but you know, I don't want to dampen the mood, at least at the onset of this discussion. So Commodore Anil Jaisingh, sir, if you could come in here, India has entered a niche group. There are just a handful of nations which have the capability of indigenously in-house building, an aircraft carrier of such a mammoth proportion. Help us understand what it means for India and also for the viewers, why it is extremely important, crucial for the Navy to have aircraft carriers.
Look, good morning to you. It is indeed a very significant day for the Navy. It's a significant day for the country from two perspectives, actually. Not only that we are commissioning our first indigenously built aircraft carrier, the Vikrant, but as you did mention, and you'll probably come to it later, we're also, the Prime Minister will be unveiling a new naval ensign. Now, a naval ensign is a very significant thing for a ship, and a flag is a very significant thing for anybody in uniform. So it is a very significant moment as well. And of course, saying that this is going to be part of our divesting ourselves of our colonial heritage, well, that may not be the whole story. But that notwithstanding, yes, Vikrant is definitely going to add great capability to the Indian Navy. It will greatly boost our capability. We are the preeminent naval power in the Indian Ocean. We have to retain that position in the Indian Ocean. I'm convinced that the great power rivalry that is actually, brewing between the US and China, which is definitely going to spill over into the Indian Ocean for two reasons. Firstly, China does not have a favorable maritime geography. So sitting where it is with the South China Sea and restricted waters, it cannot exercise its intent to become for global maritime dominance. It needs sea room to do that. That sea room is provided to it by the Indian Ocean, the sea space. And secondly, the Indian Ocean gives it access to the Atlantic. If it has to be a maritime power or a global power of any reckoning, it has to have a significant presence in the Atlantic as well. So the Indian Ocean is going to be where the future great power rivalry is going to be played out. And India needs to bolster its naval capability to an extent where it always has a favorable maritime situation and is able to shape the outcomes in the Indian Ocean region. It under no circumstances can allow itself to be shaped by the outcomes because that will make us a subordinate power in the Indian Ocean. China is expanding its navy at a breathtaking pace. We are unfortunately not doing so at that rate. It is not possible for us to do so. We have limited shipbuilding capacity. We have financial constraints. We have many socio-economic development challenges. So obviously we cannot keep pace with China. So we have to devise a strategy wherein we can counter a Chinese presence in the Indian Ocean. You will realize that over this last 2.5 year standoff that's happening across the LAC, the Chinese Navy, the PLA Navy has kept well clear of the Indian Navy in the Indian Ocean. There has not been a single incident where there's been a confrontation between the Indian Navy and the PLA Navy. That is because the PLA Navy is very well aware that with its present capability, despite being considered the largest navy in the world in terms of number of ships that it has, it does not have the wherewithal to take on the Indian Navy in the Indian Ocean. And that is something they are addressing with their third aircraft carrier, with their fourth aircraft carrier. So we also definitely need to bolster our blue water capability. We have to be where our maritime interests are. As the wing commander said very, very correctly, we are aspiring to be a global power. We are going to have a larger global presence. Our maritime interests extend from South America to Russia. We have to be able to protect them at any given time. And an aircraft carrier with its accompanying carrier battle group is the ideal platform to be able to exercise sea control, or even for that matter, modicum of sea denial, or preventing the enemy the use of the sea, as sea denial is called. So I think this is a very significant moment for the Indian Navy. The second aircraft carrier is very important. I don't know if you're aware, but in 1948 itself, when the first naval plans paper was approved by the government, it spoke of 3 aircraft carriers. India has never had 3 aircraft carriers for various reasons. Now the Indian Navy is very keen that if India has to project power the way we envisage it, or is being spoken of, or is intended, we definitely need a 3-carrier Navy so that we have 2 carrier battle groups operational at any time. One on our eastern seaboard and one on our western seaboard. Because for us, both the western seaboard and the eastern seaboard are equally critical. 40 to 50% of our trade is with the east, and almost a similar amount is from the west. Our energy security, our future food security, our trade, 90% of which comes over the sea, our exclusive economic zone, all of this needs to be protected. We need to create a favorable maritime situation in the Indian Ocean by supporting and building capacity for our maritime neighbors so that no other extra-regional power can come and impinge on that.
Correct.
So for all this, we need to have that sort of reach. We need not 2 but 3 aircraft carriers, but definitely Vikrant is a great boost to India's technological capability, industrial capability, naval capability, and signals the arrival of the Navy on the big stage.
Well, very well explained, sir. And if we could, you touched upon, of course, our belligerent neighbors, of course, the hint at China, there's no doubt about that. Ambassador Goyal, if you could come in here, in the backdrop of China's forays into the Indo-Pacific region, how significant do you think the induction of INS Vikrant is going to be, and a strong message to China, isn't it, sir?
Thank you very much, Meenakshi. I think my 2 predecessors panelists have spoken already quite significantly on the importance of induction of Vikrant, and I think more significantly about the maritime position, maritime strategy, maritime space in India's neighborhood. You mentioned about China. I think let me mention that first of all, a degree of autonomy in defense production, defense equipment is significant. It's very important. But the defense autonomy has to be part of the overall defense picture. You cannot simply say that because I need to use only the equipment that I make and therefore I will do nothing else. That doesn't work. It's an integrated kind of a plan. You work with the other countries. You see the whole picture. For example, now you talked about China. Let me go into a slightly bigger picture here. Why did India become member of Quad? India became member of Quad simply because we have a belligerent neighbor to our north and to our east. China's maritime influence does extend through South China Seas across to the Bay of Bengal. You remember the presence of Chinese submarines and ships in Bay of Bengal at the Bangladesh port. Hambantota is there. And China has gone up to Gwadar. Gwadar is practically only Chinese port, really. Both Pakistan and Sri Lanka, to a very large extent, are under Chinese sails, really. And therefore, given this kind of an adversarial strategic picture around India, what are India's options? India's options, even if we do not talk in terms of becoming a global power, but if we want to keep on developing the way we want to develop at 5 trillion economy, if we want to maintain 10%, we want to make sure that our neighborhood is free of contentions, that our neighborhood does not challenge our economic plans, our economic activities. Our export routes, oil and energy routes coming from Gulf, they pass through Arabian Sea. They pass through the Gulf. And any activity in Gwadar will actually impede our flow of oil. Our trade to the east passes through the states of Malacca. Anything happening there, China can again basically stop. Even one submarine in the Bay of Bengal will be able to put a stop to our export activities. Therefore, number one point is that if we want to be a global economic power, we need to keep our trade routes free of friction. And therefore, we need to be able to defend our maritime neighborhood. Now, even in terms of defense of neighborhood, aircraft carrier is a very important platform. You need to be able to access and deal with a threat as far as the Arabian Sea, going up to the Eastern Pacific, Western Pacific, and up to the African shore. BRI, our initial objection, if you recall, was not purely because it passes through Indian territory. BRI, our objection was that Chinese had never been able to fully explain what BRI was all about.
Yeah.
Is it only a civilian project or does it have any defense implications? Now, as it turns out, it has serious defense implications, and we were right in the sense. So Chinese had declared their intention to become a global power not now, but a decade ago. It is just that we began to react to this Chinese ambition a bit late now, and we have to catch up. We have to make sure that China does not continue to threaten. And please remember, Chinese threat to us is not only continental. It is both continental and maritime. Continentally, only we will have to defend our interests. There will be nobody who will come to our aid. In maritime, we can ride on American shoulders for some time, but eventually we are on our own. So we have to develop our defense capability, and Vikrant is only one step towards that. We properly assess what we need and go in.
And right, and just to take this forward, sir, you mentioned the China threats, and Sanjeev Srivastava, it's right, of course, far as China is concerned, the world is now wary of China. With INS Vikrant, our naval prowess, of course, increased manyfold. The ability to take on adversaries like China in a difficult situation, be it peace or even wartime, certainly it goes a long way. But also, if you look at a strong warning, it's a strong warning to other powers like Pakistan as well, isn't it?
Yeah, very much. First of all, very good morning to you, to all my distinguished panelists, and to all the viewers, those who are watching this show. And this is a historic day, and through your channel, I would like to congratulate our Indian Navy and Cochin Shipyard Limited in particular, and also to every citizen of our nation for this historic success. And having said that, the question you have asked, certainly this kind of acquisition, I think this kind of a kind of indigenous aircraft carrier which we have been able to build, it will certainly strengthen our overall defense posture. It will strengthen our position of strength vis-a-vis China, also vis-a-vis Pakistan, as you just asked. Certainly, I think it is the need of the hour that if we have to deal with China successfully, we will have to deal with it from the position of strength. Not only in the areas of border areas like India-China border areas, as Ambassador Goyal was just mentioning, but also in the maritime domain. And I think this is what other countries are also doing. United States of America, Japan, Australia, even smaller countries like Taiwan, all of them are developing their position of strength, their position, their defense posture, they are strengthening it, so that from this position of strength, from this position, position of strength and defense posture, strong defense posture, they will be able to deal with China successfully. I have been of very clear view that China is a country which understands the language of power, and only from the based on the position of strength, only based on the strong defense posture, you can have any kind of a negotiation dialogue with China successfully. Otherwise, China will exploit you. China will put you in trouble. That's what they have been doing, not only through incursions in our border areas, but also by surrounding our smaller neighborhoods through all sorts of economic conspiracies such as BRI, etc. So considering the belligerent China and also a terrorist state like terror-sponsored state like Pakistan, we will have to continuously enhance our position of strength, our defense posture, even in the maritime domain. And that is why I think this is a historic day, historic success, and we have been able to build it indigenously. That's a very, very big achievement, and I think it will certainly lead, it's a great milestone as far as our self-reliance in defense production is concerned. I think this is a historic milestone we have achieved today, and I hope that the work will start for the third aircraft carrier too soon, because I think two aircraft carriers we already have, but we need one more as I was mentioning by one of our colleagues, and I think we need 3 aircraft carriers, and I think in times to come we will be able to do that as well.
Okay, 3 aircraft carriers, need of the hour or not, and we'll open this up for discussion. But as I said, don't want to dampen the mood, don't want to take the difficult question, where the many questions which critics are also raising, something which Wing Commander Bakshi had rebuffed right at the onset of the discussion. But before I circle back to that, Major Mohammed Shah has also joined us. Morning, Major Shah, thank you for joining us on NewsX. History in the making, it's a crowning moment far as Make in India is concerned. Naval history redefined, would you say, today?
Absolutely, Meenakshi. 75 years back, we were not capable of even manufacturing a safety pin. Today, 75 years later, we have manufactured 110 Indian companies have got together, and we've manufactured a vessel, a ship which is about 1,000 feet long, which can host 30 fighter aircraft with 1,700 crew members on it, which can endure 800 miles run. So most certainly it is it goes to show that India has come a long way. And yes, as my dear friend Sanjeev Srivastava was saying, yes, we look forward to better. We are going to be moving ahead in technology and in our own indigenous equipment. In fact, our defense minister some time back, he had said, Mr. Rajnath Singh, India will not just make in India, but will make for the world. So far only 5 countries were indigenous, were manufacturing this, which were US, UK, Russia, France, they were China, but now India joins the club. So now, and how earlier India used to look up to countries like Russia, US, Israel. Similarly, countries like Philippines, we have exported defense equipment to Philippines and to other nations as well. They look up to India that way. So the kind of respect that India has garnered, and my heartfelt congratulations to the Indian Navy, to every single Indian. It's a very, very proud moment and a historical moment, and it's something which we all should celebrate.
Okay. Fine. Of course, and then the whole country is celebrating. As we said, it's a crowning moment far as Make in India is concerned. A proud moment for every Indian, and everyone, of course, is very eagerly waiting to see the first glimpse of the induction of INS Vikrant. But Wing Commander Bakshi, right at the beginning of the debate, we had just touched upon, of course, what the critics also had to say. Again, don't want to dampen the mood, but there is another side to the story. Many say that, it's an expensive proposition. Aircraft carriers are vulnerable in war-like situations. What do you really say, given what the critics have to say? Do you think there is a need for a third aircraft carrier as well? Because, as I said, cost a big concern for those who are critics, of the same, sir.
Thank you, Meenakshi. This point I had brought out right in the beginning, that don't listen to them, because they will be there who say aircraft carrier is so vulnerable, enemy submarines will only track it and it will try to sink it. If you are in the battle, you have to protect yourself. Aircraft carrier is a battle group. Along with it, it's protected. Because you have, even your airfields can be destroyed, your runways can be destroyed. It does not mean you behave like that some defense minister who had said we will not build road because Chinese will destroy it and take it. That should not be the attitude. Yes, aircraft carrier will be the main target of the enemy. So what? But we are only talking of 3 battle groups and 3 aircraft carriers at the moment. Because yes, I had brought that point out. But let me tell you one thing, when we get into Quad, we really get expanded, then your battle group will always be there also. One facing Gadar, one protecting the Bangladesh and the Bay of Bengal and Park Strait, Malacca Strait, one beyond. You will never know how much you require. Personally speaking, after 10 to 15 years, you will be seeing debates on why that. It will be very soon. The 5 aircraft carriers we will be talking of. At the moment, 3 will suffice. Yes, I know. But when an aircraft carrier comes, let me tell you one thing. The amount of diplomacy gets strengthened. You will be surprised at how, when we are going to become a member of Quad, what will be our diplomacy, our political strength will be there. Then the technology improves. The sea trial on this aircraft carrier, especially in the various sea conditions, are being watched by the maritime industry. They are seeing, and this technology will go into building still stronger ships. Even the civil maritime aspect will take technology from this, because Navy has done a lot of research on it. And personally speaking, naval designers and naval thinkers are far ahead in this line. So that is why this will augur very well. And let me also tell you, once you have aircraft carrier and your thinking is straight, you can save on economy. You can have common aircrafts for Air Force and the Navy. You can have common technology, common technical groups, common ground crew, common air crew. This aspect is there, and common thinking. Once you have common thinking, because when you talk of aircraft carrier, Army and Navy require protection from air. How will you get air protection from air? By having an aircraft. Yeah. How will you have an aircraft? By aircraft carrier. The Army will depend on Air Force, but Navy is independent. They can build an aircraft carrier. That is why an aircraft carrier is so important. And that is why all the naysayers should be told to think again. And don't get carried away just for the sake of opposition. This is a must, has to be done, and there are 2 ways about it.
Well, absolutely. And, when it comes to greater synergy between the forces, it's certainly going to ensure that it's going to be, of course, an amalgamation of the naval and our air prowess, something which can help us in difficult situations. But Commodore Anil Jai Singh, earlier, sir, there was a debate around the same when the then CDS, of course, had said that India doesn't need, more aircraft carriers. Perhaps we should look at submarines, and that's when a huge debate on submarine versus these aircraft carriers started. Where do you stand on the same? And do you think today, sir, that India needs a third aircraft carrier as well?
I think, regrettably, that statement that was sort of, grabbed a lot of media headlines was made in haste and with lack of adequate knowledge about what submarines do and what aircraft carriers do. It was like comparing apples and oranges. I'm sorry to say this, but that is a fact. So what an aircraft carrier does, a submarine cannot do, and what a submarine does, an aircraft carrier cannot do. We need aircraft carriers. Why do we need aircraft carriers? Because we want to be a big power. We want to be a big power, so we should be able to project that power. How do we project that power? With aircraft carriers. An aircraft carrier is a composite navy by itself in a way, which can travel 500 to 600 miles a day and project your power, show your flag. In peacetime, take the battle to the enemy. In wartime, it can do so much. The way the aircraft carrier battle group is configured, it has anti-submarine capability, it has anti-surface warfare capability, it has anti-ship missiles, it has land attack missiles, and it has a lethal combination of aircraft of fixed-wing aircraft, fighter aircraft, and helicopters, and early warning capability. So the aircraft carrier is, yes, vulnerable it is. Every platform in war is vulnerable. As was brought out of the wing commander, an air base on the, all our frontline air bases are vulnerable. Our armored formations are vulnerable. But then ships are meant to go in harm's way. That is what navies are for. Navies are not meant to be in harbor. So if we have to project power, look at the US. Today, it is calling the shots in the South China Sea with 2 carrier battle groups permanently positioned there. Yeah. And China is making a lot of huffing and puffing, but does not cross a certain threshold because it knows the kind of response it will get will be something it cannot handle. And China is modeling its navy very much, if you see, on how the US Navy is modeled. It's gone in for theater commands. These theater commands are going to move out to different parts of the world geographically. Whenever China finds it has the capability to operate and project power in different geographical regions of the world. So if aircraft carriers are indeed so vulnerable, and if, like China boasts of its carrier killer missiles, then why is China itself building 5 aircraft carriers? Why is every large navy in the world building aircraft carriers? Obviously, there is some merit and some relevance to them. Secondly, we keep talking about the vulnerability of the aircraft carrier, and it's an expensive platform and has no major role to play, because we are still putting the carrier in modern warfare in a World War II template. That is how carriers will be operated, the way they were operated in World War II, and that is not relevant in 21st century warfare. Why are we not assuming that the carrier role and the carrier's technology and the carrier's expectation will be now configured to a 21st century battle space? It will be a command platform. In a network battle space, it will provide you a great range of activities. It will offer you unprecedented unmanned capability at sea. And autonomous capabilities. It can operate UAVs. It will be able to operate all kinds of things. So we have to adapt the aircraft carrier, and that is what is being done. If you see how the naval strategies are evolving, the aircraft carrier is also being adapted to a 21st century battle space scenario and a template. And not necessarily are we going to continue operating aircraft carriers in a World War II template and saying, oh, well, they're redundant now because warfare has changed. So will aircraft carriers change. So I think this is a fallacious argument that India does not need aircraft carriers, they're vulnerable. We definitely need aircraft carriers. If the Indian Navy has to perform the role it is expected to do for India to be a major global power, aircraft carriers are an essential element of that blue water force.
Well, certainly, and today, of course, is a day when the first fully, or at least 70%, if I could say, Indian-made aircraft carrier is going to be inducted in the Navy. There's also another very, very significant aspect to this discussion, which is the Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliance in the defense sector.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.